Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. In today's video, we're going to be going over Shine 2023, and this event is just shy of a major this time around, coming in at a B+, and this is also the last rendition of Shine, so there's going to be a lot of eyes on this tournament. For our top 16 seeds, you're going to have C, Yoda Cage, Autonomy, and Guy in 13th, PK Chris, Smock, John Numbers, and Dark Wizzy in 9th, Capitancito and Ling in 7th, Anathema and Aaron in 5th, Jackal in 4th, Tweak in 3rd, Zomba in 2nd, and projected to win the entire thing is Light. Also, let's get this out of the way right now. The reason that Light is the first seed instead of Zomba being the first seed, because the actual way it should be seeded is Zomba first, Tweak second, Light third, and Jackal fourth. And the reason that Light is the first seed is just because they don't want Zomba and Tweak to play up against Jackal, since they are from the same region. So doing a little bit of bracket manipulation, they're putting Light as the first seed. He's also the hometown hero, so do you know what? We're going to let it slide for this time, but just in case anyone was curious, that's probably why Light's the first seed. So let's start off with the Light section of the bracket. He is going to be the first seed, and is he going to make it to winner's side top 8? And the answer to that is probably. Before this, he has Stock Taker 69, and I would favor him there. Now, Light has dropped sets to Wolf players in the past. I mean, most notably, he's dropped a couple sets to Jackal, but he still has a very overall good record versus the character. He has a winning record versus Jackal, has a winning record versus Ouch, and I would expect him to take that set. Same thing versus C, even though at Crown he did end up losing to Chase. I think outside of that set, Light has been historically very good versus Palutena, at least in the post-quarantine era. He's been doing very well versus the Whis, and all the other Palu players haven't really been able to take sets off him, and I think Chase doing it that one time was probably the exception, because Chase is just kind of goated, so I would favor him versus C. And Capitancito, that's a player that he actually has played up against, and as you can see, it was a 3-0 at level back, so, and I would definitely favor him here. I mean, the first time you're playing Capitancito is the scariest time, because you're not going to know any of his tricks, but not only does Fox do very well versus me, Gunner, he also is now going to know at least a handful of Capitancito's tricks, so I would definitely favor Light to get out into top 8 winner's side. And our other top seed is going to be Jackal. And like Light, I would expect him to make top 8 through the winner's side of bracket. Right before this, he's supposed to play against Nuggets. And though they have never played before, he does have a 5-2 record versus Ling. So I would expect Jackal to take that. He's clearly showing some proficiency in the matchup. Then he would go into Guy. Now, Guy is actually a player that Jackal has a decent amount of reps against. And he has the last 5 encounters all going in his favor. Now, to be fair, this last one was game 5. So maybe Guy has a chance. And he has been able to beat Jackal before. But I would definitely favor Jackal there. Then you're going to have Jackal versus Aaron. It's likely going to be Aaron, at least the way that Aaron's playing at SmashCon. I mean, he literally beat Spargo. I would expect him to get to this point in the bracket, and I would still expect Jackal to take that. Just looking at the matchup alone, because these guys have never played, Wolf is going to be a fairly good character versus Diddy Kong. Now, Aaron does have some secondary characters, but Diddy is definitely his best. He's going to be putting in a majority of the work there, and I do imagine that that matchup is going to be Wolf Diddy Kong, and I would favor Jackal just because on paper, it's a good matchup for him. Also, I should mention that Jackal is literally practice partners with Tweak, so he's going to be very good at the matchup. Now, this could technically be to the detriment of Jackal. We've seen it before. I think the best example is MK Leo versus Zomba. He practices a lot versus MK Big Boss. Very good against Rob, but maybe only that MK Big Boss style of Rob. Maybe Jackal is really used to that Tweak style Diddy Kong, and the Aaron style throws him off guard. But even with all of that, I would still favor Jackal because he's got a lot of reps in the matchup. I'm not going to spend as much time in the losers bracket just because it is fairly fickle, but I do want to pick 3 players that I think have a pretty good shot of making it to the top 8. And the first one is going to be Aaron. I mean, the way he was playing at Smash, I already mentioned it, but he looked exceptional at that tournament. And if he's able to take that momentum and bring it into Shine, I would definitely see him in the top 8. I think the player that has the highest potential of taking that from him is actually going to be Unleashed. Obviously, Dark Wizzy and C have chances too, but I'm going to pick Unleashed because Sora is absolutely broken, and he is one of, if not the best Sora player in America. So I think he has a shot of making top 8. It's not going to be easy. He's supposed to lose to PK Chris in the winner's side of bracket, but Sora, again, is a character that you can literally just touch of death people, but the touch of death combos are, of course, very hard. So if Unleashed is able to use some of that task stuff in tournament, I could definitely see him getting in the top 8. And on the other side of the bracket, I'm actually going to pick PK Chris to make it in over Capitancito, and they have no prior history between them, but the fact that Ness just absolutely destroys me, Gunner, is enough for me to say that PK Chris should win. Now, he's probably not going to be super familiar with me, Gunner, and I can guarantee that Capitancito is going to know how to play against Ness, but the matchup is like really bad, like -2 probably around there. So I'm going to say that PK Chris, even if he doesn't know the matchup super well, should pull through. On the other side of bracket, our first top seed is going to be Zomba. He's supposed to go up against Yoda Cage, and then the winner of Ling and John Numbers. And I would definitely favor him to get through on the winner side of top 8. Once again, his record versus Yoda Cage is overall very positive. Also kind of funny that 68% win rate versus both John Numbers and Yoda Cage. But he's won their last 5 encounters. To be fair, they haven't played in 8 months, and Yoda Cage has been looking very good as of late. He's got a couple really nice upsets, but also Zomba's been looking like really, really good within these past handful of months. So I would definitely favor Zomba going into that one. And then you get either Ling or John Numbers. Now, if it's Ling, I would definitely favor Zomba to win. He won their last encounter at High Res only 2 months ago, as well as winning their last 4 sets. John Numbers, I would also favor Zomba, but if he was to get upset at any point in this bracket, I would expect it to be to John Numbers, just because this is a player that has played Zomba a lot. He's going to know a lot of Zomba's habits. It's going to be a lot more player versus player than character versus character. And I think if a player's going to get upset at any point in the bracket, it's probably going to be because they are playing against someone that has some good reads on them, even though Zomba is going to be winning their last 4 encounters, as well as winning it the last time that it mattered at the major level. I guess that was more of a regional, but so is this tournament. The bigger events is what I'm saying. Zomba's going to be taking that last set, so I am expecting him to win there, but if he's going to get upset at any point, I think John Numbers would probably be the player to do it. And our final top seed is going to be Tweak, and I once again am going to be projecting him to go through on the winner's side of bracket. But to be fair, I think out of all the top seeds, he probably has the hardest bracket. His first opponent right here is going to be up against Antimony, who is going to be playing Steve. And Tweak, in the past, has definitely struggled versus Steve. He's dropped sets to Quandale Dingle-Lingleton. He's dropped sets to Syrup recently, even though he did get the run back. He obviously doesn't have an amazing record versus Aquila, but to be fair, that's Aquila. I don't even know if you can use that as information. But regardless, Tweak has dropped sets to Steve players in the past, but he also has 2 characters, especially Sephiroth, that do well enough versus Steve, where I would expect him to pull through. And then he would go into Anathema. Now, Tweak historically is very good versus Rob. He does have a 2-0 record versus Anathema, but this set at Let's Make Big Moves was so insanely close that I don't have a ton of confidence to say that Tweak is going to win 100%. I'm still going to favor him because he did win the set, as well as just, again, having an amazing record versus Rob. I also think Diddy Kong does very well versus Rob, so I think Tweak will probably pull through, but if Anathema was able to get that upset, it wouldn't be the biggest surprise. And we are once again going to be brief with the losers bracket. My first pick is definitely going to be Anathema. I mean, his tech skill as a player is just so absurdly high. The fact that Anathema can hit you with Rob Nair and kill you at 0 or at 60 or at any percent really is just ludicrous to me. And all the opponents that he's projected to go against, whether it be John Numbers, Yoda Cage Beast, Tony Pajamas, I would favor him against all of those opponents. Again, Anathema is a player that I just have a very hard time counting out because of how impressive he is. And he could honestly top 8 through both winners and losers side of bracket. I don't know what the fashion he's going to do it in, but I'm very, very much expecting Anathema to be in the top 8 of this tournament. Then you're going to have the Ling section of the bracket. This one's a little bit more interesting because I'm going to favor Ling versus both Smock and Antimony, but I'm definitely going to favor Ling much more heavily versus Antimony. As you can see, he has a 5-0 record versus him, at least in games, as well as Peach is doing very well versus Steve, at least in my opinion. I mean, if you watch Aquila versus Mudes, the way that Mudes is able to weave outside of Steve's burst range is so incredible. You also have a couple ways of dealing with the block, so I would definitely favor Ling versus Antimony, and I would still favor Ling versus Smock, but as you can see, the only time they played, Smock did 3-0, but also it was 4 years ago, so that doesn't really mean anything. And also, Ling's records versus the other Roy players don't mean a ton here, because last time he played Goblin was 2 years ago, though he did win it. Last time he played Cola was a year ago, and some of these sets are with Cloud, so none of this really means anything. The only information we can truly gauge is Peach versus Roy, and that's a matchup that is even enough where I'm just going to go with Ling because I do have Ling as a higher rated player in my mind. But Smock is also crazy, definitely an up-and-comer that could make waves. Canada as a region is just very strong right now, so if Ling is not going to get into top 8, I would expect Smock to be the player that takes him out. And here we are, the top 8, and we're just going to be going with the projected seeds. And to be fair, the only change that I would have made to it would be PK Chris over Capitancito. But to make it up to Capitancito, I'm actually going to pick him to win over Aaron because I think B Gunner does fairly good versus Diddy Kong. If I had to pick a character to win in that matchup, I would probably lean towards Me Gunner. Diddy is a character that loses to some of the weirder mid-tiers within this game, and I can also almost guarantee you that Capitancito is going to be more familiar with Diddy Kong than Aaron is going to be familiar with B Gunner. Now, to Aaron's credit, played amazing at Smash Can. I've already mentioned that a couple times in the video, but he really just was incredible at that event. And if he's playing like that, I would definitely expect him to win that set. But the way that Capitancito plays, especially at some of these regional events, I'm going to say that he's able to take that one. They're going to have Ling versus Anathema. Now, they've only played once, and it was a long time ago, though it did go to Anathema's favor, and I'm going to project it to go to Anathema's favor again. I just know that this set is going to be a banger because these guys are going to hit each other insanely hard. First of all, it's Peach versus Rob, so you know that's absolute combo food. And also, Ling is one of the hardest hitting Peach players in the world, and Anathema is the hardest hitting Rob player in the world. So regardless of how the set goes, I wouldn't be honestly surprised if there was like 5 neutral interactions, 1 max, because they just kill each other in 1 hit every single time. It's going to be an absolute bloodbath, and one that I think Anathema is going to come out on top on. On the winner side of bracket, you're going to have Jackal versus Light and Zomba versus Tweak. Now, for Jackal, Light has been winning all of the recent encounters. As you can see, he's won the last 5 in a row, and I would expect him to win this one as well. But Jackal, he's beaten Light in the past. It's definitely not impossible. He's an incredible player that's been doing very well as of late. I mean, his last major performance isn't super great at Smash Crown, but his run at Crown was simply phenomenal. So I do think that Jackal can beat Light, but I would definitely pick Light as the favorite there. And for Tweak Zomba, this one is very interesting to me because Tweak has lost their last 2 encounters. They're both going to Zomba. Battle of BC, it was kind of a much more competitive set at Crown, very close there. And honestly, I'm going to go with Tweak to win this one. Now, my reasoning behind that is because he's going to have to already beat Anathema to get to this point in the bracket. So he's clearly going to be Rob-minded. He's going to be fresh up against the Rob, knowing what to do. He's going to be ready for that matchup, and he's going to use that knowledge that he gained versus Anathema, apply it to Zomba, and he's going to be able to take him out and send him to the loser side of the bracket. Even though Zomba has won their last 2 encounters and has just been looking very good as of late, I'm going to say that Tweak is able to pull through. So on the loser side of bracket, we're going to have Zomba versus Capitancito and Jackal versus Anathema. And for Zomba Capitancito, they've already played once before. It was a year ago, but if I had to favor a player that's gotten better in the last year, I would definitely favor Zomba that. And I think playing Capitancito for the first time is the hardest time playing him just because he's got so many tricks. But Zomba clearly was aware of them the first time, was able to take it, and I would expect him to pull through this time. And for Jackal Anathema, this one's pretty interesting to me because Jackal and Anathema have only played once. It was 2 years ago, so it doesn't really matter. It did go to Anathema's favor, but Jackal has a lot of sets versus Zomba. Like, a lot of sets versus Zomba. And even though all of them aren't necessarily winning, overall, he's going to be very, very well versed in the Raw matchup. So I am going to expect Jackal to take this set. I mean, he just has so many reps under his belt. Now, to be fair, mentioned earlier on in the video, this could be to the detriment. You're used to one playstyle of Rob, you get hit with another one, you don't know what to do. But I'm going to say that Jackal has his fundies down well enough that he's going to be able to beat Anathema and move on to top 4. And we have our top 4, Light versus Tweak in the winner's side and Zomba versus Jackal in the loser side. And we already took a look at Zomba and Jackal's record. It's going to be in Zomba's favor. And at the major level, I guess higher it's going to be a regional, but at the bigger tournaments, Zomba is going to be winning their last 3 encounters, and I would expect him to do so here. Obviously, Jackal can beat Zomba. He's going to know a lot about Zomba. He's going to have a lot of experience in that matchup, but a majority of the time, Zomba is going to be closing it out, and I expect him to here. Light versus Tweak, though, this is where it gets a little bit more dramatic because, as you can see, very back and forth sets between these guys. The last encounter is going to go to Tweak, and it was so dominant so that I'm going to be picking Tweak to win this set. Now, I will say, it will not be as dominant as it was at Battle of BC. I definitely think that this was an outlier within their sets. Tweak was absolutely crazy at that event, at least in this one particular set. I definitely think it's going to be a lot closer this time around, but because of how dominant it was, in my good conscience, I have to go with Tweaker. Like, if I went with Light and then Tweak just did it again, absolutely destroyed him, I would just look kind of silly. So, for my insurance, we're going to go with Tweak. So in losers finals, you're going to have Zomba versus Light, and I'm going to pick Zomba to win that one, and my reasoning behind it is their last 4 sets have gone 2-2. Kind of funny that 2 of them were also at Shine. Game 5 for their last 2 sets, and the last time they played was 8 months ago. Even though Light did win their last encounter, if I had to pick between Zomba and Light and who has improved more in these past 8 months, I would 1000% go with Zomba. So I'm going to say that he does take that set, though it's definitely not going to be a blowout. I think it's going to be still extremely competitive. I'm going to favor Zomba, and for the grand finals, you're going to have Tweak versus Zomba. We already kind of talked about that record. I think Tweak does fairly well versus Rob, but clearly Zomba doesn't really care about that fact. I'm going to say that he resets the bracket, but Tweak manages to take Shine home, and I thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If there's a player that I left out at any point in this video, or something that I missed, or just something that I got wrong, please let me know down below. The support has been absolutely unreal. Be sure to sub, all that yada yada, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.